We have some major developments in the case of a social media influencer gunned down on the Cross County Parkway. 6 men now face federal charges in her death.
4:30 in the morning, one driver, one exit ramp, one vehicle, worth more than most people's houses. She had no idea 2 other cars had been following her for miles. In seconds, she was boxed in. No room to turn, no room to run. She tried anyway, foot down, wheel cutting hard, looking for any gap in the blockade. 6 armed men, 2 stolen vehicles, a ramp built for driving 20 feet from her own front door. And then, nothing. The shooting stopped. The cars pulled away. They left with absolutely nothing. No jewelry taken, no cash, not even the car itself. 6 people, 2 vehicles, a level of planning most street robberies never come close to. And when it was over, they drove off with their hands empty. That's the question this case never lets go of. Why go through all of that and take nothing at all? By 8 a.m., someone found her, still in the driver's seat, yards from the building where she lived. Her name was Ariela Polanco. Online, more than 500,000 people knew her as Ariela La Langosta. To investigators standing on that ramp, the scene didn't look like a robbery gone wrong. It looked like an execution. To understand why 6 armed men would plan something this precise and still leave with nothing, you have to go back. Back to who she was, what she posted online, and the one piece of technology that turned her own visibility into a target. And stay through Chapter 4, because buried inside how this case was solved are 2 lessons, simple ones, that could genuinely change what happens to someone in a moment just like hers. Welcome to True Crime Footprint, where we unveil the darkest mysteries and the most terrifying true crime tales. Kindly hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our new stories. Your support keeps these stories alive. Before the ramp, before the gunfire, there was a woman who built something out of nothing. Ariela Polanco came to the United States from the Dominican Republic as a child. By her 30s, she'd turned charisma and instinct into a business. Over 550,000 followers, sponsored posts worth up to $10,000 each, a VIP hosting career at 2 of Manhattan's biggest nightclubs. That income bought her a home in Stony Point, an apartment in a new high-rise in Mount Vernon, and, in early 2025, a black Mercedes G63, the kind of vehicle that turns heads on sight. She filmed herself showing it off online. To her audience, it was a milestone, a symbol of how far she'd come. Neither she nor anyone watching had any reason to think that post was dangerous. But somewhere, someone was. Her orbit included people who drew attention of their own. In 2023, she appeared in a music video for rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine, a artist with a documented history of gang conflict and federal testimony against former associates. She was also in a relationship with a man named Nada Cartier, a name that would surface in international law enforcement records tied to an investigation in the Dominican Republic into money laundering and drug trafficking. None of that made her a target, but it made her connections complicated enough that when she was killed, investigators didn't start by asking who wanted her car, they started by asking who wanted her dead. Cartier was brought in for questioning. Detectives weighed a theory that the ambush on the parkway wasn't about a vehicle at all, that it was retaliation, that she'd been in the wrong seat, next to the wrong man, at the wrong moment. For a while, that theory held the whole investigation in place. But 6 armed men, 2 stolen cars, and a level of coordination that precise don't usually belong to a personal vendetta. Something about that ramp didn't fit the story investigators were telling themselves. And the answer wasn't in her relationships at all. It was underneath her car. When forensic technicians processed the Mercedes, they found it. A magnetic GPS tracker, fixed to the frame, not planted the night of the shooting, placed there earlier, watching her, quietly, for who knows how long. With that discovery, the entire investigation changed direction. This wasn't about who hated her. It was about who had been tracking her, in real time, from a phone, for days or weeks before she ever reached that ramp. Investigators turned to the region's automated license plate readers. Scanning hours of highway data around 4:30 a.m., they isolated 2 vehicles traveling in tandem with her SUV. Matching speed, matching route, holding position like an escort. Both vehicles were stolen. One trail led directly into northern New Jersey, into a known pocket of Trinitario's gang activity. Search warrants for cell tower data, placed several known members of a set called BB7, a faction of the Trinitarios gang, at that exact location, at that exact hour. And on their phones, investigators recovered something even harder to explain away. Messages, members discussing the plan, celebrating afterward. Weeks earlier, the same group had used an almost identical method against someone else, a musician named Bulin 47, a tracker on his car in Massachusetts, surveillance through 2 states, an ambush in a Fort Lee parking lot that ended with roughly $400,000 in jewelry gone. That robbery worked exactly as planned. No one died, no shots were fired, which leaves the hardest part of this case still standing. If this was the same crew, using the same method, with the same goal, taking a vehicle, not a life, then something on that ramp broke from the plan. She refused to stop. She tried to drive through the blockade instead of surrendering the car. And in the space of a few seconds, a robbery that was designed to end with an empty vehicle ended instead with a woman dead behind the wheel, and 6 men driving away with nothing at all.
Last August 17th, Ariela Mejia Polanco, age 33, was found shot to death behind the wheel of her Mercedes-Benz on the Cross-County Parkway.
Police say Polanco was just yards away from her home when that happened. As we've reported, she was well known on social media as Ariela La Langosta. She was also featured in a music video by rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Members of a violent criminal gang known as BB7 murdered a young woman in cold blood on the Cross-County Parkway in an attempted carjacking. Her only crime was driving a luxury car in sight of these defendants.
Police say they used a lot of tools to track the suspects down in this case, like license plate readers and traffic cameras.
This entire investigation that led to all of these indictments actually started with our case, the August 17th homicide. From that point going forward, that's when our investigators began working with our federal, our state.
I promised you 2 lessons from this case. Here's the first one. A magnetic GPS tracker is small, often the size of a deck of cards. It attaches to metal in seconds, usually in a parking garage, a valet stand, or anywhere a car sits unattended for a few minutes. A quick visual check of the undercarriage and wheel wells, especially after parking somewhere public or high traffic, can reveal one. This won't catch every device. It won't guarantee anything, but it closes a window that criminals are counting on staying open. Here's the second. Posting a new car, a new address, or a nightly routine in real time creates a pattern, one that doesn't require hacking or surveillance to exploit. It just requires someone watching, delaying a post by a day, leaving out identifiable landmarks, varying a route home. None of it makes a person untouchable, but it removes the easiest information a predator could ask for, freely given, with no effort required to obtain it. With those 2 things in mind, here's where the case stands. Federal prosecutors have built their charges around one explanation: a coordinated carjacking crew, using a tracker, that escalated into gunfire when she refused to stop. It's supported by license plate data, cell tower records, the recovered tracker, and the near-identical method used weeks earlier in New Jersey. It's a strong theory, but it has one gap it can't close. Nothing was taken. No clear reason has been offered, in public record, for why gunfire replaced a simple carjacking. The earlier theory, that this was retaliation tied to her boyfriend or her connection to Tekashi 6ix9ine, has not held up. No evidence has surfaced linking either man to the men now facing charges. The federal indictment doesn't mention it at all. It's worth remembering, too, everyone named in that indictment is currently facing charges, not convictions. The cases are still working through federal court. So, the technology explains how. The messages explain who. What still isn't fully explained is the moment everything went wrong. The few seconds where a plan built for profit turned into one that ended a life. Go back to that ramp now, and you see it differently. 2 stolen cars weren't random. They were positioned, timed, waiting on a signal from a tracker bolted to her frame weeks earlier. 6 men weren't strangers to violence, several already linked to shootings and killings across the Bronx and northern New Jersey. This wasn't chaos. It was a plan, built the same way a previous robbery had been built, just months before. Almost a year later, a federal indictment tied that plan to a wider pattern. 15 counts, 12 defendants, an alleged enterprise connected to 5 homicides across 2 states. 6 of those men now face charges specifically for what happened to her. charges that carry the possibility of life in prison or the federal death penalty if convicted. Their cases are pending. What the government alleges is not yet what a jury has decided. What the evidence can tell us is how 6 men found her and why. A tracker, a pattern of public visibility that made her routine easy to predict. A method rehearsed once already, successfully, on someone else. What it can't tell us, what no phone record or license plate scan will ever explain, is the exact reason a robbery built to leave with a car instead left with a body. She built a life in full public view. Followers, brand deals, a car she was proud enough to show the world. None of that made her responsible for what happened to her. It simply meant that somewhere unseen, someone was always watching. The case may end in a courtroom, but the question at the center of it, why gunfire when the plan called for none, may be the one thing this story never fully answers. To everyone who made it to the end, thank you for watching, for your attention, and for joining us on this journey of reflection. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and above all, stay safe. See you on our next video.